Hello, I want to welcome you here, and I've got a question that's burning inside my heart, which may open the doorway for a deeper dialogue for us to have relations, because there is a thread of your own mystery, of your own dream that is awakening, that brought you to this doorway so that I could open it and say hello and introduce myself. And my name is Jyoti. I'm the spiritual director for the Center for Sacred Studies and one of the founders for our community that holds that center called Kayamari. And I've been asked to share a little bit about the genealogy of this dream that's been awakening over almost 25 years now. Longer than that if you look at the way that it prepared me and got this vehicle ready for something. But it's about a collaboration, it's about a cooperation, it's about a collective weaving. It's about a group of people that decided they wanted to step out of the box of throwaway, and they wanted to have longevity be a part of the relations they were making. And they wanted to be awakened fully in themselves so they could be more conscious individuals walking on this earth, so we could spread goodness and peace rather than division and divisiveness and illness. So that's what brings me to sit and share with you today. So I want to share a little bit about how this story has awakened, and I want to start by telling you that some of my elders told me a long time ago that as we're awakening ourselves individually, there'll come a time when that vehicle of service is prepared and ready. And it's in that moment that the story that stalks you from the divine pounces on you and consumes you so that you become that waking prayer. You become that awakening inside of this lucid dream we call reality, earth reality. So with that teaching inside of me, something awakened in a very personal way for me in 1988. And that story pounced on me and swallowed me. And little did I know that at the time, but it was going to unfold in such a way that I would meet my wonderful partner in life and in the ways that we hold spirit and spirit's bidding, and that would be Russell Park. And I would come to meet some of the most amazing individuals that we don't have time in this next few minutes for me to list all of the people that have been walking by our sides and with us from the very beginning of its time. Darlene Hunter, who you will get to know, who's the CEO for the Center for Sacred Studies, has been one of those individuals, and there are many, many more. And I would say that each and every one of us came to this doorway to make a relationship with the unknown and to be in service to the mystery that was stirring to awaken a planet. And we said yes fully to it. And in that waking moment, she would start, the Great Mother would start to hand us instruments of peace. And the first one that she really handed my husband and I, Russell, is called Stargate, a mystery school. It was given to us in about 1992. It was enacted and activated in 1993, and I thought it was going to be a program that would last for a year, and it is still alive and very much has become a cornerstone of this community. It has also helped to generate funds for this community, as well as an interpersonal basket of skills that help us work out our shadow pieces and those places of misunderstanding when they appear, because that's just the parts we've come together to help each other heal. And we want to do it in a wakeful manner, and we also want to do it with gentleness. That would take us into creating a field that would start to generate a need for an intentional community, and that brought us to the top of a mountain in Sonora, Colombia, in the Sierra foothills, and we call that beautiful place there Kayamari. Kayamari comes from the Huichols, and it's an amazing teacher of the Huichols, and he is a blue deer, and they say wherever Kayamari walks, medicines grow that heal community. And that's what we found in our life as a community. And in my world, as a part of that community, the Divine Mother is such a a direct influence on everything that we're doing right now, that whenever she needs something prepared for her to come and start to realize another portion of this new dream that's awakening, then she sends Kayamari, our community, goes over and starts to create a space on this land that brings people back to a sacred way of life and a sacred way of prayer. That community institutionalized itself in 1995. And we didn't know what we were doing. We just took one step at a time. We didn't know how we were going to get there, but we had a great faith living in us that something was calling us, and we were being called, and we had to keep walking on this good road. And little did we know that up in 1998, a great vision of the Mother would come, and she would hand me a sacred basket, as she put it, and inside this sacred basket are some of my most treasured jewels. And those jewels represent lines of prayer that go back to the original times. She said, do not mix them, do not change them, protect and keep them safe, and walk them through the doorway of the millennia and hand them back to me. I have something we are going to do. Now, we didn't really understand that across our field was also popping up a lot of other instruction and visions from many people inside the field that were giving certain instruction that there would come a time when elder women would need to gather. Up our 14-mile logger road would come elders from many of these jewels in the basket to initiate us, to teach us, and to train us, and to help us get closer to the understanding of the vision that we were walking with, that we were in service to. That was in 1998. And then 9/11 happened. And everything that we had set up as far as structure to run things by, it all shook around and needed to be changed so that we could really protect this basket, these sacred ways of prayer that went back to original times that had been entrusted into our care. And so we brought in the Center for Sacred Studies. And it is a church structure that allows us to protect and keep safe our ways of prayer that are earth-given and that have been entrusted into original people's hands. And now they've entrusted some of these same altars for prayer and for peace and for healing to us to watch after. And our kids, my grandchildren, are all learning a different way of life from this basket. We're learning how to speak differently and think differently and how to walk and follow life differently. And that's been the gift of it. Although the challenges of it and the transformational energy of it, I'm not sure we were truly prepared for, but we were innocent and we were devoted. So as the Center for Sacred Studies was coming into place, we had to look at how could we develop this in a way that really kept us with earth-based practices and allowed us to create a vehicle that would be a bridge to the world and to different cultures and to different faiths and different paradigms. And from that thought came our ministry program, which is a minister of a walking prayer, which acknowledges and wants to empower folks wherever they're living in the development of their own authenticity, because when we live that close to our authenticity, then the work that we came to do for the planet and for our families and for the generations coming behind us and in front of us gets done. At least in my world, that's what it looks like. So I wasn't sure how to have an online ministry program that could be alchemical in itself, because for me that's the place where real work happens, and that's the place where we really get to meet our full selves with each other, and our hearts are activated instead of becoming just an intellectual exercise. And it's something that involved the whole system of the body, the mind, the spirit, and the soul. And somehow or another we were given a formula, what I call the bones of a project, and then it starts to fill itself out and show us where it wants to go. And as we began to do that, it ended up becoming a ministry that's not only been across the North American continent, which I had only seen it going, but before we would translate, but we haven't done any translation out of English, and it's already in many other countries. And what we're discovering is that There is actually a virtual community establishing itself, points of life all around the planet of people that have done remarkable work already and are just finding that doorway so that we can connect ourselves and our resources and be prepared for a time when we maybe can't travel as freely as we do now, but that we need to then communicate and collaborate and share resources so we can keep this wave of consciousness moving on through the planet. Shortly after that, in 2004, we would come to open up and convene around this basket the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers. At least that's what they ended up calling themselves before the end of that first meeting in 2004. And they decided that they wanted to go to each and every grandmother's home place and host 7-day prayer vigil around a sacred fire for world peace. They wanted to model how this many different lines of prayer, cultures, languages could get together in a prayerful and peaceful way, and with all of their differences being not only okay, but empowering a much broader understanding of how we can live as one peoples on this planet Earth. And to shake the world awake, we would come to understand that there was prophecy in many First Nation peoples all around the planet that talked about a time when the 13 grandmothers would come to shake the world awake, and so they did. In fact, there are grandmother circles in over 70 countries right now of all nationalities that are bringing together and helping people remember the earth and how to come back to a localized way of living in a village, in family, and in relation to the earth. And that would keep going for almost a decade. A couple of years before it got to a place where it needed to reach its own fruition and define, the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers needed to create their own organization and let their own voice be even more prominent in the world. I was given a seed, and the next part of this story, as it was unfolding, really wanted us to look at whole systems. And whole system cannot be talked about unless we get back to a template that has to do with economy, the economizing of our system. And that doesn't mean just about money. That means how life serves life and gets served, so that there's a field of reciprocity available. And so I received a template that I would later be told was one of the original old symbols for the Kogi, and that is exactly the foundation that this should sit in. And they got involved in this, as did other indigenous people from other places in the world, and that's led us into an initiative to get the Black Hills back in the hands of the Great Sioux Nation. And it is our knowing that once this happened, that will shake the world awake so that we can get sacred sites back in the hands of First Nation globally, because I really know that this is a time when the earth needs her original people's ceremonies to reactivate these sites so that the next level of our story can be made visible. And right now, we're calling that, it's not a new economic model, it's a restoration of an economic model that brings feminine principle of collaboration, cooperation. And right now, we're calling that model the fountain. I prefer to say the fountain for natural order for our existence, because in its message, it's really about bringing that natural order back into each and every one of our villages. And that brings us to you and me talking today. For you probably have some part of the ingredient of what that might look like, and that's why we're meeting this way today. And that's how this dream has awakened itself and unfolded itself over almost 25 years since it started to plant itself and actualize itself. So I just want to share that much with you. The story of Kayumari, the story of a group of people who have open hearts and who have a real need to open ourselves fully to the presence of our own authenticity and invite that in each and every one that we meet. It is our way of being peace, not just talking about it. Thank you.